want the pants the right side out. Then you're just going to take the pants and unzip it. Got this out. You stitch this closed up. So we want to stick the front down into the front leg so that we can line them up at the front. What you want to do is fold back a 1/2 inch seam allowance and line it up at the top, and then begin to match the darts and the side seams all the way around the entire waistband. So we're going to fold this 1/2 inch back and line it up, and then begin to stitch these two together, 1/2 inch seam allowance. And you want to match them all the way around. Make sure that you have the pleats stitched in, because if you don't, everything is not going to line up correctly. So if you don't have the pleats in your lining, it's not going to line up. So we want to join these together. You want to make sure you match the darts, that you match the center backs. Everything should match up. Everything should line up. Make sure you have all the seams pressed open so it'll look really well when you put them together. So it looks nice. So after we join the waist and the pants and the lining together, then we're going to join the waistbands. Previously I showed you all how to sew the waistband pieces together. We edge stitch one side and we serge one side, because we're going to leave the pants with the serge stitch just laying flat. It's not going to turn under. See, we all the way back to the other side of the front. You're going to turn it back. Later on we'll hand stitch those together. So we're going to sew these, finish it up at a 1/2 inch. And back stitch all the way to the end. Now the waistband. I edge stitched the one side and serged, but make sure you check with your instructor so you know exactly which side to finish with the serge stitch and understitch. So I'm going to do a 1/2 inch seam allowance on both front ends and trim the corners. So you will want to go and press this understitch, the top of this waistband down, before you stitch it on. So I want to take these two and line them up at the center front. I want it to go all the way up to the seam allowance, but not past it, where they meet at. So if you stitch this past here, we can't fold it back and lock the corner and make it look like it's one seam. So the short end will be attached to the zipper fly. So we're matching up the seam allowances together. And the long end will be attached to the shield. So it's easy for you to understand which end is attached to which side. That's why the long end is extended, because it needs to extend all the way down to the shield. And again, the same thing, you would attach these two, line them up till it comes to the end of the seam, and then pin them together. And then this should line up and match at the side seam. Hey there. And then we want to pin everything else in between. Match the notches at the center back. There's the notch. Here's the center back seam. So match all your notches along the way. If everything line up, then you know you're good to go. If it don't line up, then we need to find out what's wrong. So don't try and sew if things don't line up. Alright, so we want to sew these two together at a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So we stitch these two together all the way around from end to end. Make sure you pin in between to make sure it's coming out correctly. And make sure you keep everything lined up. So After we finish stitching the waistband on at a 1/2 inch, then we need to finish the corners, and then we're going to do stitch in the ditch. Same thing you did before on your skirt. So it should sound familiar. You remember stitching the ditch on your skirt?
Oh, when I did the top stitch in my zipper, did I catch the other side?
So you see it, you're going to have to go back and fix it. Yes, you did. You always have to fold that flat back to make sure that you don't catch it. All right, here's my little trick. Sometimes it's hard for people to understand how to do this, so that's why I need you to really pay attention. In order to finish this corner, while this is down like this, you take this and flip it back. You match these up together, and then you stitch again at a 1/2 inch seam allowance. That's going to lock the corners of both sides of the front at the waistband. You can stitch in the same stitches that you already have a stitch right next to the stitches. But you know it's going to come out right. But you don't want to get the lining caught, and you don't want to sew down too far. You run a risk of getting something caught if you do. Trim the extra off. You're going to do the same thing to both sides of the pants at the waistband. And you push it out. And that's going to finish the inside. So it's finished on the inside here and the outside, okay? And then later you'll go back and hand slip stitch this to finish it. You would go and press the seam up into the waistband, press it flat, and you would measure it and pin it, and then stitch in the ditch. So stitch in the ditch, you would just go and stitch right on the pant, right under the waistband, and pull it a little bit while you're stitching it, and then the stitches won't show up. We can push it down and press it and cover the stitches. Remember that? All right, that's it. Okay.